Tyler's in the kitchen. I hope everyone is doing well. Well, earlier I told you I was going to be doing something with squash. Well, that's because I had these butternut squash and I had spaghetti squash that was in the fridge. And I'm going to be honest, they were about to go bad on me. And I thought, what could you do with the spaghetti squash and the butternut squash? And so I decided I was going to make a butternut pasta. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop my angel hair pasta into my boiling water. And so you can do this dish multiple ways. Of course, I'm going to use protein pasta, and I'll show you my brand. But I want to get this noodle in the pot so that it will boil while we are live. And put it back on the eye now. But I was like, okay, so here it is. You've got butternut squash, and you've got, well, I had spaghetti squash. Now here is the pasta that I just dropped. And this is the protein pasta that I typically use. And I buy everything in this brand that says protein pasta because I know that if I'm going to eat a little bit, I've got to have protein in everything that I eat. So we just dropped this. And I do need to turn on the timer because if not, you know I'm going to get carried away talking with you guys and I'm just going to forget all about this pasta that's boiling here. But as I stated, I knew I had to do something with my butternut squash. So what I did was I peeled the squash and then I cut it up into little chunks. And then I was like, okay, what are you going to do with it? So I took an onion, I chopped it up. I took some fresh garlic and I chopped it. And so I sauteed the onion and the garlic in extra virgin olive oil. And then as it was all beginning to meld together, I then put my butternut squash in. And so I added a little broth. And I made my broth with seasoned vegetable base, which is the Better Than Bouillon. I used this to make the broth. And so once I added the butternut squash, let it cook a little bit, then I added the broth. And I added water to this base. And I did it really just to sight. I'm going to put this in a recipe so you guys will have it a little better than this. But I did it to sight because really this was the first time that I've done this recipe. And so today I've been experimenting with it. And after doing that, of course, I added some sage because I was like, you got to have a little sage with the butternut squash. I have fallen in love with allspice. And so I also added a little allspice. And I let this all boil together until the butternut squash was soft. And then I felt at that point the spices, everything had sort of married together. Also, of course, I put a little salt. And I also added, I don't have it out still, I added some cayenne pepper. Because again, this is going to be a sauce that I'm going to put over pasta. So I wanted to elevate it just a little bit. In addition, what I did was I took 18 Brazil nuts. And some of you may know what I'm talking about, Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are very high in protein. And so 9 equals, I think it's about 10 grams or 9 grams of, maybe 10 grams of protein. And so I did 18 Brazil nuts and I let them soak because I wanted them to become as soft as possible. And then after a while, I put them in my saucepan with the butternut squash. And then I let it sort of cook a little while. After, let's say about 10 minutes or so, and everything is soft. Now these were not quite as soft as I wanted them to be, but it didn't matter. So what I then did was I took the immersion blender and I blended everything together until my sauce was not as thin as I would normally have it, but it was still pretty thin. But you could also use a blender to blend it. And as you see here, this is what my sauce looks like. So it is actually thick. I think that the nuts also help to thicken the sauce. So it was a win-win for me. Now I will tell you that I still put just a sprig of my sweetener, which is stevia, and I have it in a container now. I put just a sprig in there because I wanted to sort of balance the flavors. I didn't want it to be too, what's the word I want to use? I didn't want it to be too, it's not acidic, but I didn't taste any sweetness at all. So I wanted to balance the garlic. I wanted to balance the pepper because we've got several different peppers because it's got a little black pepper as well in there. So I wanted to balance some of that. And that's what the stevia did for me. And so it turned out to be quite tasty. Now, while all this is going on, I actually took my spaghetti squash, and of course what I did for it was I took the seeds out, and then I put just a little bit of olive oil on the spaghetti squash, and then I put it in the oven. I had it in the oven on 400 for probably about an hour, maybe about an hour and 10 minutes. I was trying to do less time, but I needed that time. I needed the spaghetti to be a little softer. That's our timer going off. This is real time cooking. And so we're gonna check the pasta and see if it's al dente. It is, but I'm gonna give it one more minute. Only because for me, I like al dente, but I don't want to have to chew as long as I normally have to. Isn't that awful to say? You know, when you've had bariatric surgery of any kind, you really do have to chew your food very well. And we're taught that. And so I'm going to let this get just a little softer because I'm going to be the person eating it. So if it was for you, I would keep it al dente, but I'm going to let it get a little softer for me. So likewise, it was the same thing with the spaghetti squash. So put it back in the oven because I was like, I need it just to be a little softer. But depending upon the size of the spaghetti squash that you have, you may be able to put it in for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes. It's really just going to depend upon how soft you want your spaghetti noodle. But if you want it al dente, probably anywhere between 40 to 60 minutes, depending upon the size of the spaghetti squash that you have. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this pot of our, it was boiling, I don't know if you can see it, our spaghetti, excuse me, my angel hair pasta. And so I've got this sitting on a little colander so that can continue to drain. So we're just draining off the pasta water, but there'll be a little pasta water that will collect because it's going to drain into the pot. And so what we're going to do is, you see here where I was just pulling this apart. I'm going to show you how it does just peel from the sides. And you know, when I was growing up, my mother she never did anything with butternut squash. She didn't do anything with butternut or spaghetti squash. You know, we were pretty basic. We ate yellow squash. We ate zucchini squash. But I've always had a love of squash, and I like trying different foods. And of course, the thing that I really like about butternut is, and I do it all the time, is I make butternut squash, the bisque. I really like that. So you see, I just pulled it apart. Just pulled the noodles apart again. So what I also did was I made some spinach. We could call it chips, but basically I roasted some spinach leaves because I wanted to add a crunch factor to this dish. So let us now see. I think I will take this little saucer. And I'm going to use this saucer for the spaghetti, the butternut spaghetti noodles. And so I'm just gonna pull some out. Now, when I package this to store, what I will do is I will actually sort of break my noodles up a little bit. You don't have to do that. You know, I do it because, one, I eat very small portions. And I don't know if you can see me now trying to wrestle with the noodles. They are noodles. They're like spaghetti noodles. So, you know, they're long. You know, they're long. And so I want to break it up a little bit, but for our purposes, I won't do that. Oh, you might see where it got a little brown, which is just fine with me. So what I'm going to do now is put a little bit, oh, I say a little bit, but look, I'm putting a whole lot of it. Putting a little sauce over here. Now, someone asked me, was I vegan? I'm not vegan, but I do find myself eating, sometimes, I don't even think about it, I eat a lot of, lots of times where I'm not using anything from an animal. And this particular dish, you know, when I was making, I thought, well, you know, I'm only thinking about it as 2 vegetables or vegetable fruit, depending upon how you want to look at it. But I'm using both of the squashes as a vegetable. And I thought, well, you've not used anything that came from an animal. And of course, the Brazil nuts only add additional protein for me. And so then I thought, okay, sometimes you are, sometimes you're not. But for me, it's about taste. As I said to that person, it's about taste and me trying to get protein in my diet. So what I'm going to do now is zest a little lemon here. Just a little lemon. Just to brighten this up a little bit. And because I'm not going to do any, this is not as cute as you like it to be, or as I like it to be, but it's cute. It's cute enough for me to eat. You know, this is live cooking, and this is for me to taste, and for you to see me taste it. Okay. So what I did was I put the spinach chips that I basically put a little olive oil on them, a little salt, a little pepper, put them in the oven, and they baked in the oven probably about 12 minutes. I just wanted them to crisp up. I didn't want them to get too crispy. And so I've added my butternut squash, put a little lemon zest on top of it. Now let's see. Now this is the reason why I told you I have to cut it up. You see how I'm trying to get this? You know I can't eat all that. Nah. I can hear my mother saying, now, I know you weren't trying to put all that in your mouth. Well, you know, I'm not going to be able to put all that in my mouth and talk to you. So let me cut my spaghetti noodles up because it's just too much for me. Cut this. And let's see if I can pick up a bite that makes sense. Let's see here. Let's see. We'll go with that. Let me make sure I don't have a seed there still. We can go with that. Hopefully you can't hear me crunching, but if you can, that's good. Because what that means is that my spaghetti noodles are still al dente, which is a good thing because you've heard me say before, I need a crunch. It's good. I taste the lemon zest, so that's cutting through the oil, all of the seasonings that went into the dish. Very good. Now let me get one more bite of this. It is good. Oops, you see how that spinach leaf just fell away? I want to taste it. This is good because now I'm really tasting a little salt and a little pepper. So that mixture together, excellent. Now this is the spaghetti squash noodles and then the butternut squash. I put a little lemon zest and then we've got my crisp spinach leaves. Let's try this a different way. Let's try it with the angel-haired pasta. The angel-haired pasta. It'd be the same thing. I probably need to cut this up a little bit too. But we're going to put all of it in this dish just so that you can see it. But I am going to, I didn't put all of it. We're going to leave a little bit there. But I am going to take this fork because this is my food. So same fork. It's no problem. What I'm doing is I'm cutting up the angel hair pasta so that, hopefully I didn't cut it too small, so that when I get ready to dip it up, you'll be able to see the pasta a little differently. No, probably cut it up too much. Isn't that awful of me? But that's okay. This is my food. Oh, those are some long pieces. This is my food. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm toying with this as I'm saying it. I'm going to put my sauce. It looks good too. I've got sauce happy here. I put the sauce over the angel hair pasta. Okay? But this is going a different way. I could add some crumbled goat cheese, and this just happens to be tomato basil. It could be any type of goat cheese. It doesn't even have to have a flavor. We could put some goat cheese there. We could also grate some cheese. Of course, you know, I'm always looking at the protein component. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grate a little cheese to see what the flavor palette is with this. Because again, this is the first time I've done this, so I don't know what the flavor palette has going to change. I don't think I'm going to put, I don't think I am. We'll see once I taste it. I was going to say, I don't think I'm going to do any lemon, but I don't know. Let us add another, yep, there we go, spinach leaf. Add some spinach leaf. And so now we've got the spinach leaf, we've got the grated Parmesan there, and we've got the angel hair pasta. So let's see what we're looking like now. What does this taste like? Ooh, it's hot. That's how it tastes. It's hot. I forgot. These noodles just came out of the water. They're hot. It's good. It depends upon what your taste is. If you want it without any animal, then certainly you can have it. You could have the angel hair. Well, let me take that back. I would go with the spaghetti squash, and then I would do the butternut squash sauce, and then just go with it like that. Add the lemon zest, and it's just as good. This is good. This is good. And them big pieces again. You see how it is. I'll be chewing forever trying to get this eaten. Because they're a little crunchier. I like a crunch. This is good. And I'm going to be eating both of them. So, I wonder if my family would enjoy this. I might have to save them a little sauce. I freeze everything. I don't think I can. I might get away with freezing some spaghetti squash with the sauce. Now this is the angel hair pasta again. It's good. It's good. Again, I think before I'm done with this, I'm going to try it with a little goat cheese. I'm not sure I'm going to use the tomato basil. I may just use plain goat cheese. Because again, I'm looking for the protein. And so the more I can layer the protein, particularly when I'm layering flavor, the more I like it. Now this is what you do on a Saturday when you've got to get all this stuff out your fridge. I won't tell you guys when I bought this squash and the butternut squash, but you may say, what is she talking about? Did I see some little dark spots? Yes, you did, because I have been planning to do something with this for some time, and I looked today and I thought, if you don't cook this, you're not going to be able to. But what I want you to take away is, it doesn't matter what you've got in your fridge. We just got to think about it and figure out how we can transform it into something different. Healthy, of course, because everything that I've got here, you've seen all of my ingredients except for the cayenne pepper. This is all healthy. There's nothing that I have that's not healthy, but you have to adapt it for how you eat. So if you're vegan, do the butternut squash, do the spaghetti squash. You can do the spinach leaves. I added Brazil nuts. Healthy. If you want to have a different type of pasta, here is my pasta. I added the angel hair pasta, protein pasta, and it's the exact same thing with the exception of I did add some cheese. So again, a great simple dish too. Did it take a little time? Yes. What took the most time was the sauce because I really couldn't have done the sauce live because it took some time to do the sauce, and I wouldn't have had enough time to cook the spaghetti squash live because that took over an hour just to make sure that it was at least done enough for me to eat. So again, this is what you do when you gotta raid the refrigerator and you gotta clean it out. You take 2 squashes, you bind them together, and you make a wonderful dish. I will post the recipe for this once I transcribe it because I'm cooking, and I'm cooking from taste, but I gotta write it up. I will write this recipe up, and I will post this video and the recipe on my YouTube channel. I'll give you the subscription link when I post this live, so please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And there you can find recipes that I've been working on, still perfecting some of them, but they're all good though. They're all good. And remember, you can always transform something that you have in your fridge and make it a wonderful, wonderful meal. So remember, take care of you, and I'll see you next time. Todd's in the kitchen. Bye now. Hi, Butterfly. Hi, Giles. Thank you guys for joining me. Till next time. Bye.